Hey guys, Brad here from Scooter Street. Today we're talking carb upgrades. Now, if you've been following along with our 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐤 build series, you would have known that in the last video, we sort of discussed now putting our attention onto the intake system of the bike. So currently on that scooter, we've got a 70 kit, we've got a performance exhaust, and we've also got an over-range transmission. So pretty much we've done everything to the bike that we want to do with the exception of the intake system. Now, this is generally the way you would do it. As we've sort of talked before, you generally attack cylinder and exhaust first. And then once that's been done, then we do the intake system. We've got more demand now. So now let's look at the supply. So this particular kit here is one of the 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐤 PHBG21 kits. This is the kit for the Piaggio engine. Pretty much fits all of your Piaggio and a Piaggio affiliate brand engines, anything Hyper 2. So 2 straight 50cc. Now this particular kit from 𝐂𝐡𝐞 is great because different to if you just bought a generalized 𝐷eLordo PHBG21 kit, this kit is designed to just bolt onto the scooter. It's got all the fitments to fit all your factory fittings. This is intake manifold, the tube coming from your airbox goes straight onto this carb. It's got all the fitments for the manual choke. Obviously the PHBG is a manual choke only carb, so it's got all the fittings there to make everything work. Now, there are 3 things that this kit does not have, and that is these 3 here. Main jet, pilot jet, or main jet kit, pilot jet kit, and needle set. Please do not be one of the people who buys one of these carbs from us, bolts it on, and then the bike won't run. You email us saying the kit doesn't work. It's because you need these. The carb will bolt on, but that doesn't mean it will run right out of the box. The main jet, pilot jet, and needle that are in this carb from the factory are pretty much just there to fill the space in the carb. Almost never will they be the correct ones to run on your bike. So please, we offer these as an additional upgrade on the carb kits on our website. Please buy yourself a main jet kit, a pilot jet kit, and a needle kit because you will need them to get your bike to run properly. Now that that's out of the way, let's open up the kit and have a look. So as I mentioned, obviously this kit comes with a little bit more than just the carb. It comes with the rest of the componentry you need to actually make this carb work on the bike that you've bought it for. So in this particular kit, it's a couple of extra parts. So obviously have our 𝐂𝐡𝐞 manual choke kit. Now the kit actually comes with a couple of little brackets which are really great for making the fitment of the manual choke to the bike really easily. This one here, we usually use this little L bracket and we just pop it onto one of the transmission cover bolts, which puts your manual choke in a nice, easy to access position so you can just quickly flick it on and off when you start your bike up. We also have our 𝐂𝐡𝐞 air stuffers. Now we've done a specific video on these before on the fitment and use of them, but essentially what these are really great for is opening up your factory airbox a little bit so that we're giving a bit, the new bigger carb a bit more supply of air. So we're actually getting a benefit from it. We're not just choking the carb up with a restrictive airbox. We of course have our various cable fittings to make the bike actually work with your factory cables. Now some, but not all, interestingly, of these newer 𝐷eLordo PHBGs come with these sort of screw-on removal caps for the slide, which is great. The older design had 2 flathead screws that went in the top. Now, often a bit of a pain in the butt to get out once it was on the bike. You often, with the seat over top of it, don't have enough room to get a screwdriver in there to get the screws out. So you have to pull the whole carb out. These ones are great because you can just pop the screw cap off. And we obviously have our slide in here for when you want to access the needle. Now, popping the needle out of this carb, we'll see these carbs always come with a W16 needle, which is an extremely rich needle. I don't know why they insist on putting these needles in these carbs. I have never come across a scenario where a W16 runs well because they're just so rich. This is what I mentioned about needing to buy the needle kit to get the carb to actually run properly on your bike because yeah, this needle is basically a placeholder. It will never run well on your bike. Now, a couple of the other really handy elements on this carb in particular that comes in the 𝐂𝐡𝐞 kit. As I mentioned, it's designed specifically to fit the Piaggio engine. Now, part of that is fitting your factory oil and vacuum lines. Now, see the 2 here, we've got our vacuum line and our oil line. So if you just went and bought the generalized 𝐷eLordo PHBG carb, they don't come with these fittings, which means you have to convert your factory vacuum operated fuel tap to a manual tap. You're gonna have to sit there and operate a manual tap every time you ride the bike. And because of a lack of the oil line, you're also gonna have to delete your oil pump and do premix. Now, all of this is possible, but it does remove some convenience, particularly if the bike is your daily rider. Now, the sort of street race build that we're doing on our 𝐂𝐧𝐝, we do want to keep as much of the convenience as we can. And obviously these two lines really increase that convenience. We're not having to change as many parts on the bike to suit the carb. The carb actually suits the bike, which is really what this 𝐂𝐡𝐜 carb kit is aimed at. Now, one of the other clever things about this kit in particular is this screw-on intake ring. Now, what this is great for is if you want to run your factory airbox, you can. You just screw the ring on, off, in it goes, no problems. Your factory air tube from the airbox will just go straight onto this plastic fitting. Say you want to run a pod filter. Well, you can buy various 𝐂𝐡𝐜 pod filters that have this exact screw fitting. It's actually what I have on my bike. A bell mouth goes on, and then the pod filter goes on top of that. And because the pod filter is actually screwed to the carb, it's A, much more convenient to remove and replace, and B, it's much more solid. It's not going to have anywhere near as much likelihood of falling off as it would if it didn't have the screw fitting. Now, popping the carb open to see what jets and things they've put in it from factory, because I'm actually a little bit curious. We'll see straight away, we've got our float here, our float valve, which is just located underneath this little bent elbow on the float. Have our main jet, pilot jet, choke jet. Now, the choke jet, you never need to touch. Don't even think about it, it's fine. Totally fine from factory. I can't think of a scenario where you would need to tune your choke jet. Now in here, if we pop our bullet-shaped pilot jet out, from factory, they have put a 48, which is absolutely massive. And then our main jet here is a 70. I can't think of a single scenario where you would have a 70 main and a 48 pilot. The point I'm getting at here is, as I mentioned earlier, if you just bolt this carb into your bike, it is gonna run like rubbish. You must buy the jet kit with the carb. It goes exactly the same for the needle. W16 needle never runs properly on medium throttle. It's a full throttle only needle. And yeah, these jets are totally ridiculous. You would never run that on any scooter, ever. Now, one of the other great benefits of the PHBG in particular, other than that there are so many different accessories and parts for it, is that you can get replacement parts really easily. Now, one really common one is this paper bowl gasket. I have replaced these so many times over the years on my bikes. To be honest, I don't really understand why 𝐂𝐴uto have kept the paper gasket. When you look at the PHVA and PHVB, they both have O-ring gaskets. Maybe it's because it's more race oriented, I don't know. But my point is, over time, this paper gasket will wear out and it will start to leak. My personal Zip, the gasket's doing this, and I've just bought a gasket kit because I need to replace it when I next work on the bike. So it's one of those things, you're just gonna have to periodically replace it. The gasket kits are pretty cheap. We always have them in stock, so it's not a big deal. But the point is, replacement parts for this carb are very similar to the upgrade parts. There are so many available and they're very readily available. Now, on that note of upgrade parts, specifically pertaining to the bowl, I have a warning and a recommendation. Now, on a previous bike of mine, I had a PHBG21 and I ran one of the 𝐂𝐴uto clear bowls. Now, these are really cool. You can see the fuel actually filling up. You can see the float working. Just actually really cool to look at. And they're a genuine 𝐂𝐴uto part, so you would assume that they would work. The issue I had, and this is on 2 separate bikes with 2 separate carbs and 2 separate bowls, these clear bowls, for whatever reason, warp over time and leak terribly. Really only take a couple of months and they're just leaking constantly. It's a real pain. I don't understand why 𝐂𝐴uto make a part that doesn't work, but again, that was my experience 2 separate times on 2 separate bikes, totally different setups, and the same thing happened with both. So don't get a clear bowl. They don't work. They stuff out over time. They're really cool to look at, but they don't actually function properly. Now, my recommendation would be to run a bowl that I actually have on my PHBG21, on my 𝐂𝐧𝐝, which is an aluminium replacement bowl. So being that it's aluminium, it doesn't warp as easily as the plastic bowls that these come with. But the big benefit of this bowl is, instead of this solid little nipple that these plastic bowls have that sits over the main jet, it has a large 15mm nut. The benefit of this being, when you want to do your main jet changes, instead of having to, particularly on the Piaggio engine, on the Zip, it's quite hard to get the airbox in and out, can be really painful to do your main jet changes. Instead of having to take the whole carb out, you can release the hose clamps, slide the carb to the side, and just release that 115mm nut to access your main jet to do changes. Once you've changed it, nut back on, carb back down, off you go. It means that your main jet changes, particularly if you're running a factory airbox on your Zip, become a 2-minute job instead of a 15-minute job. Especially on the Zip, it's so painful because of the seat bucket and the way that they've designed the airbox. It's really hard to get in there. So especially if you have a Zip, those particular bowls are so handy, real time saver, and save you from scuffing your knuckles up on all the little internal components inside as you're trying to get the bowl out. Now today was just an unboxing. In the next video, we're actually going to go through the installation process of this carb on our shop Zip, but more importantly, we're going to go through the tuning process, because to tune this carb correctly in as efficient and least painful way as possible, we have an easy trick, which is essentially the sequence and order in which you tune each part of the carb to A, get the most out of the carb, and B, tune it correctly as easily as possible, because there is a particular sequence that you need to follow to make your life easy. If you don't follow this sequence, you're gonna absolutely hate your life trying to tune this carb. So watch out for that one coming out soon. Thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate your support of our channel. You guys watching what makes this happen. So watch out for that video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.